Mute. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Earning Curve. The Earning Curve is a new platform in webinars and different from other webinars you may have attended in the past. We let all of you as the audience drive the panel. My name is Marianne Biangardi, and I'm the head of business development at Schmersahl, Treloar & Company. Today's topic is addressing sexism in sales and marketing. We will discuss how many women in sales and marketing are overcoming obstacles to preserve respect, dignity, and integrity in the workspace. Since all of you drive the panel, we need you to help us out and send us your questions. So find the thought bubble icon at the bottom of your screen, type your questions in there, and then I will read them to the panelists to get them answered. Let's go ahead and get started with some introductions. Today, our anchor panelist is Sarah Tucker. Sarah is the Director of Sales for the Kansas City, Missouri, Nebraska regions of IP Pathways. IP Pathways is a full-service technology and cloud services firm. She is also the founder of Sales Cheerleader. Sales Cheerleader is her passion project where she consults and trains female entrepreneurs on how to maximize their revenue. Fun fact about Sarah, she's a mom of 5 and grandmother of 1, even though she looks super young, that can't be possible. She loves to cook and host parties. Next up, we have Amy Lemire. Amy is with AIM Training and Consulting, and she's trained hundreds of entrepreneurs, sales professionals, and teams on performance mindset, sales, presentation, leadership, and negotiation skills. After a near-death experience at a young age, Amy has now the desire to help others by leading and serving and inspiring them to achieve greatness. She's been a leader in human potential since the age of 18 through her LifeSpring seminars. Fun fact about Amy, she's a fitness fanatic. She's a pescatarian, which is a fish-eating vegan, but she sometimes sneaks in an occasional piece of bacon. She quit coffee and dairy 10 years ago and loves her decision. She was also a fitness instructor, and health is still her passion. Lauren Conaway is the founder and CEO of InnovativeHER KC. Lauren is an advocate for women in the Kansas City area. Her company, InnovativeHER KC, is a highly engaged and diverse community of thousands of women entrepreneurs. InnovativeHER KC operates with the foundational ethics of inclusion and low barrier to entry, working to support women in the Kansas City area and ensure that the entrepreneurs can thrive. Fun facts about Lauren. Lauren is a trivia fiend, and she takes the test to be on Jeopardy every year. Sometimes she even practices how she will sign her onstage name. She's also an animal lover, and she recently rescued 3 possums and is raising them in her home. When we had the practice session yesterday, she had them on her lap, the 2 of them, and we were like, what are those? We thought they were cats and they were possums. Anyway, that's just fun and interesting. Jessica Powell is next. She's a national business entrepreneur leader. Jessica is very passionate advocate for female founders and youth development. Over the last 15 years, Jessica has held senior leadership roles at Venture Connects, Startland, formerly Kansas City Startup Foundation, and KC Collective. She has extensive experience in the areas of executive management, strategic business planning, partnership development, operations, event production, marketing, and sales in small business and startup environments. Fun fact about Jessica, she moved to Grand Cayman as soon as she graduated from KU to avoid going to grad school. And it's where she first learned to be a true entrepreneur, that she is a true entrepreneur. So before we open it up to all of the audience questions, I want to go ahead and ask Sarah a starter question as the lead panelist. And after she responds, I would love for the other panelists to comment as well. So Sarah, let's get started. How can we advance women in the sales and marketing industry? And then everyone else may weigh in after that.
Yeah, thanks, Marianne. So good to be here. I think the first step is really mindset. For both sexes, for men and for women. I think we need to have a little bit of a shift. Obviously, the world has evolved, culture has evolved, and it's time for us to remember that we're equal. And I think for all sexes that is still a challenge. So I think we have some mindset work to do as a collective, to reinvigorate and remind all of us that we are absolutely 100% equal, so that we can advance the female perspective. And thanks for having me here today. I'm excited.
Oh, we are very excited. This is going to be a great panel. Does anybody else want to add on to that? Go ahead, Amy. Just jump right in.
Yeah, sure. Hi, good morning. I'm also very excited to be here. And I agree with what Sarah just said, that I believe mindset is probably one of the most important elements, because one of my mantras that I put in my book, From Zero to Sales Hero, is I call it the AAA: attitude, activity, and accountability. And I think it all starts with attitude, that people do buy and they engage with people whom they like and whom they trust. So I feel that we need to take care of our inner house every day. We need to have a daily ritual, whether it's working out, walking, playing with our kids, playing with our cat, praying, whatever it is, meditation, yoga. But that's so critical, because I think doing activity to get ourselves in the right mindset each day is going to reflect in our engagements with other people, prospects, customers. And it's something that I've chosen to do for quite some time. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll go next.
Oh, go ahead.
I really feel like flexibility, both from the employer's point of view and employee's point of view, but more so from the employer's point of view, is really what has personally helped me advance in my career. 15 years ago, when it wasn't necessarily cool to work from home, I just expressed what I needed, because I can't expect other people to read my brain. And I think it's really easy to expect people to do what's best for you, but they can't if they don't know what's best for you. And so I'm really proud of my ability to articulate what I need to succeed. And when I have a team that encourages me to not only exceed, but to share openly, then they listen. And so flexibility is really important to me. I need to be able to work when I want to work. And that is not at 7 a.m. when I'm getting my 3 kids ready for school. And nor is it happy hours every day, because I want to be with my family. But I want to work when I want to work, and having a team that trusts me to get the job done at whatever time that is rewarding to me and makes me work harder for them and succeed more.
Thank you, Jessica. Let's see, we do have a chat question here. What are the top challenges women face in sales and marketing today? And can you include some of the obstacles faced by women in marketing and sales that aren't necessarily apparent, yet very real difficulties?
This is Sarah. I can pop in here. That's a loaded question, because there's a lot. I think when you can sit back and really understand what a salesperson does, right? What we are paid to do is build relationships with our ideal customers, right? So we have to build that know, like, and trust factor individually and from a corporate perspective, because we're selling ourselves as well as selling the company or product or service that we represent. So this may be alarming to some. I've shared this story with people, mostly men, and they're like blown away. But it is an extra challenge, I think, as a female, to have that responsibility to build that know, like, and trust factor, especially when it's with other males, because the lines can feel blurry. So for my position, I'm selling mainly to technology CIOs and directors of IT, and I have been in several positions for over a decade. So those are mostly male, right? Because the technology field is definitely dominated by men for now. And so for happy hours and dinners, I've noticed that there are occasionally customers that get really confused about what kind of the objective is. And so it can be an intense challenge as a female building know, like, and trust, but also keeping the boundary that this isn't a social date. We're here with a corporate agenda. And that gets really tough, especially when you mix in alcohol for a happy hour. So I've gotten lots of tricks of going in early, paying the bartender, asking her to make my drinks virgin, things like that, to make sure that I can build the know, like, and trust and be my charming self, but also ensure that I am protecting my integrity throughout the experience. So it's definitely a unique challenge that we face as females.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what Sarah's saying, I absolutely agree with that. I think that the relationship aspect of any woman's career really is kind of fraught with landmines periodically. One of the issues, and I think a really important one that we don't talk about enough, is women finding mentors. When you are working in an industry that has historically been led by men, we have to understand that progression of career means that we're not going to see as many women in leadership positions, and so we're already operating at a deficit as far as who can I reach out to who understands my experience, who can lead me through difficult situations and times. Mentorship is crucially important, somebody to champion you and be in your corner. And so it's already difficult to find a mentor who really understands your journey. But then you compound that. So that confusion piece, with the advent of the Me Too movement, the Pew Research Center, they did a study, and they found that 60% of men in management of some kind felt uncomfortable mentoring a female protege. And that's really challenging as well. You're already operating at a deficit, and then you have to consider that there might be people who don't want to work with you simply because you're a woman. And so there's always, it's a complicated situation, but I mean, mentorship has been one of the most impactful facets of my career, and it's been responsible for my, trajectory and our growth and InnovativeHER and everything. So when you're taking such a crucial component out of your leadership journey, or just even making it harder, it's deeply impactful. Relationship building is hard.
And I was also going to add that in my experience, it's work-life balance that it's between work. It sometimes becomes work and then relationships and then myself. Whereas anytime I'm feeling really stressed out or something is out of kilter, I remind myself that I should have my relationship with myself first, and then my relationship with my others, my significant other, my family, and then work is third. And one of the challenges I think as women is that we're nurturing people. We want to take care of people. We get overcommitted. We get into a cycle of obligation, and I think we do more so than men do. So that's something I'm constantly having to pay attention to in my life, and it's easier said than done sometimes.
I think that goes into exactly what I was going to say is my challenge that I have been working for 20 years on, and that is communication. And so, it goes back to what I said before. If you can't communicate how you're feeling with your team, with your mentors, with your family, then you're going to feel really alone. And it's going to be that much harder to see the light on whatever that situation is. And so finding that friend, that colleague, that mentor, the boss, whomever that is, to communicate before it blows up and before it can potentially wreak more havoc. is really vital. And that's something that no one can take away from you. No one can take away your ability to communicate. And I think as women, it ties into my second thing, which is the challenge, is confidence. Confidence is a muscle that you have to exercise. You're not born with confidence. And, the more you express it, the more you exercise it, it will be there. And, I have been called arrogant, and where I really think it's just confidence. So it's fine tuning it, and aggressive. But, that's just people's opinions. And, I feel as though it is my duty and honor and obligation to continue to showcase my confidence so that the women behind me and in front of me can see that, and it can start being a norm. And we can start using the words like confidence rather than arrogant to describe people that are like me, in that I communicate how I'm feeling, and my truth is my truth. That doesn't mean it's the truth, but you're going to hear my truth and take it for what it is. And the other challenge that I've always had, because I'm usually a co-founder or second or third in line, is, when the people I'm selling to don't like necessarily what I'm selling or the price that I'm selling it at, it's always, well, let me talk to your supervisor, or let me talk to your founder, or let me talk to someone else, to negotiate a price, or, negotiate a discount or deliverable in some fashion. And it just really started to get to me. And I'm just like, that's not their job. Why are they thinking that they can go above me? There is no one above me. This is it. And so my little hack for that has always been, to hear what they're saying. They're communicating their need, that they don't necessarily want to buy what I'm selling right then and there with those deliverables. And so I simply say, well, let me talk to my board about it. I hear what you're saying, and I will definitely bring this to the board, because, sometimes there is a board, and sometimes the board's me, and I just come back a few days later and say, nope, board said no, sorry. And so that just, now I'm no longer the bad guy. It's the board. And the board is made up of women and men, and or you don't need to know who's on the board. And it just starts to change that dialogue maybe in their head of, my supervisor is a man. And so I use that, well, let me talk to my board often.
That's really great, Jessica. And I really especially like your talking about communication and confidence. And I think where that also flows into is language choices. So as a female director in an information technology field, I often find I'll go, not too often, I want to be sure I'm fair. I've got lots of fabulous customers, but I'll go to meetings at times and start deep diving into IT strategy, and I'll see they're like, she
Whoa.
knows this stuff. Yeah, it's
Yes.
like it blows people away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm excited for the day where it's not a surprise that a woman can be articulate and intelligent, even in fields that have been dominated by men. I'm just excited for that day. And I know that it's coming. We keep saying there's a revolution, it's rumbling, it's coming. But it's just really doggone irritating when people seem absolutely flabbergasted that I might understand, a little bit about IT.
Sarah, so I came up in sales and marketing and operations in some pretty heavily male dominated fields as well. I came up through aerospace first, automotive, then IT. And in particularly when I worked in automotive, something that would happen on a regular, though not frequent basis is, so I was in internet sales, and I would pick up the phone and be ready to answer a customer's question. That's usually why someone was calling. And this would happen all the time. A woman would be on the other end of the line, and she would ask a question. She would ask for a salesperson. I'd be like, I can certainly help you. And then she would say, well, is there anyone else that I can talk to? Like, that was always the first pass. Is there anyone else I can talk to? No, but I'm more than happy to help you. I'm here to answer, questions on the floor. And then it would come out, well, do you have a man on staff that I can talk to? And the thing, I was extremely knowledgeable. I was sometimes more knowledgeable than the guy salesman sitting next to me. And I was like, what kind of internalized misogyny do you have to have at play to hear my voice on the other end of the line and be like, nope, 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 women don't know cars. They can't know cars. That was crazy to me. So I mean, it's not just men, it's not just your teammate, like it's everything. It's a constant barrage of what the hell just happened. Yeah.
My goodness, that's so interesting that a woman would say
Multiple. And
Yeah.
I will say, like, they did tend to be like a little older, like maybe they came from a generation where having women in certain spaces was not the norm, even more so than now. So I get it, but it was alarming.
Right. We do have a chat question over here. What would you say to the multitude of men who are trying to do the right thing in the workplace and treat everyone as professionals with no special treatment to anyone, but with the Me Too movement, do you sense any increased pressure to give women preferential treatment in the workplace?
Yeah, I would
Jessica's
say,
like, no. Sarah's
I went from clapping to no.
yeah, right. I would say, to be fair, my opinion, I wouldn't want to be a man right now, trying to navigate this. I do think that it's exceptionally challenging. Like I mentioned before, I talked to my husband and he's like, are you kidding me? Like, it blows his mind. And I would say he's a very evolved, he's grown up with me. So he has to be kind of mindset. And so for many men, I know that they do not look down on me. I work for a fabulous CEO that absolutely treats me as an equal. I've never had to worry about any of this stuff, but there are so many men that aren't there yet. And so what I would say to those men who are allies or who are ready and evolved, we need your help modeling the appropriate behavior. And it needs to be very intentional and deliberate. And you need to show that to your fellow colleagues so that they actually get to see this is how you treat women in the workplace. Again, I do think it is a cultural shift, right? We've all watched the sitcoms, et cetera, from decades before us, and women were not treated appropriately. And there are still families that have that dynamic at their house. So I do feel for men who grew up being taught that a woman's place was to be in the kitchen with an apron on, and now they're like, oh, but she's my boss, right? So I get it. That's a mind shift, right? But I think that intentional and deliberate modeling is going to be the way, because women have been kind of hollering for a minute, and we need your all's help to model that so that we can just take a step back and do our jobs, please.
There's also a concept I think about, and it's called intrinsic validation, and it's a concept that I teach, and it's all about noticing other people. And one example I can think of recently is I work with a certain VP of marketing who happens to be a man, and I just really felt this tension because I had an agenda and he had an agenda, and I started just reminding myself that he wants the same thing and I want the same thing. We both want a successful outcome here. And what is it on my that I need to address with him so we can have a clean space? And we actually just ended up having a really deep discussion about some things that maybe I had said that he didn't agree with recently, and so he said some, vice versa. And it was really, it all comes down to communication. And I think that one of my favorite things is most breakdowns don't happen because we're communicating too much. It's because we're not communicating enough. And I think sometimes in business, we have to wear this armor and this shield that we're tough and that we don't talk about intimate issues or we don't talk about what's on our mind. And I think that we all need to let those walls of resistance down and just remember we want the same thing. And part of that is we will have conflict and we need to get it on the table so we can all move forward. That's something that I've been really focusing on lately.
And to add to that, I would like to encourage all of us, women, men, to call out those people doing it great. So if we, like Lauren, for my birthday yesterday, she gave me flowers. And so I have been thinking about it for the past 12 hours that I need to take a picture of those flowers that I'm looking at that are so beautiful and call her out, praise her on social. Yes, I do. I want to, because when I do that, it trickles down more goodness. And so like it's very important for us that when we see people doing it well, to call them out on that, to praise them, to say somehow, I see you did that and you did well, because that makes other people pause, even just for a second, pause and think, am I doing that? I want other people to recognize that I'm doing that. I should be doing it better. I should call that person and ask them how they did it so well that their employees are calling them out on it, and vice versa, to communicate if they're not doing it, and to not come from a place of anger or being fearful of losing your job. To ask a mentor, ask someone who's been there before to coach you through how to have that difficult conversation, because change doesn't happen by just waiting and praying, maybe praying, but not just waiting. You really have to get in there and do something about it. And there's people here, me, you can reach out to me. I'm sure everyone on this panel would be happy to just, walk you through how to have a good conversation for change.
It's a great point. And we've actually got comments here. Great point on praise, Jessica. So another question here from Jen. Do you think we have more challenges with questioning of women in their roles, especially in tech sales, because we live in the Midwest? How do you respond professionally why you aren't home with your kids?
Oh, it's such a tough one. And I have 5 kids. So when people hear that, they're like, and you're not a stay-at-home mom? And then it's become, so your husband stays home? No,
Nope.
no, neither of us stay home. We both have big aspirations and dreams. I do think it's more challenging in the Midwest. I grew up in Kentucky. It's very challenging there too. But I do have peers on the coast, and it's not the conversation. My personal opinion is that things happen first as a cultural shift on the coast, and then they slowly come into the Midwest. So again, I'm the optimist, but I look forward to the day where we can quit asking women who are mothers why they're working or anything about who's hanging on to the kids or taking care of the kids. Because honestly, that's just none of anyone's business, if I'm being really frank. And it needs to just be a question that's removed from our dialogue. I think there's times when we get those things like we're trying to build a connection. It's maybe not always intentional, but as I mentioned earlier, that language really, really matters. And when you're not careful with how you're asking those types of questions, it really comes off offensive and judgmental. So I think just, especially going back to the previous question, what can men do? Pause is my favorite thing to remind people to do. Before you start to ask a question like that, just take a quick second and pause and try to think about your wife answering it, or your mother answering it, or your daughter answering it before you put it out in the universe, because you can't take it back once it comes out.
Agreed. I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old boy, and I founded my first company when I was pregnant with my first with a friend, because I wanted the flexibility of working from home and not doing 8 to 5. And I got a lot of grief from neighbors, from my family, from, the community here in Kansas City. And it felt like grief. I'm sure that they just thought it was inquisitive, or yay, good for you, go get him, girl. But it was judgy, it was judgmental. And why would you choose to work, like it was a detriment to work. And I choose to work because I want to. And why should I have to tell you what I want to do? I don't ask you what you want to eat for breakfast, and It's always been a challenge for me because I feel as though society is telling me that I have to choose my kids all the time over work, and that's not choosing me. And so I always go back to the airplane, put the mask on yourself first. And I do what I need to do to be happy. And I know what defines happiness for me, and that's work. And that's, helping founders in the community. That's doing a great job and getting praise from my colleagues and seeing the success on paper of what I'm doing. And that's what brings me joy, and that's what makes me a better mom.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I'm interested also what Amy would say about this with the work-life balance. Even my own mom and family have said things about me working, with the 3 kids, and like, you should be home more. But I think it's empowering for the kids to see their mom working, and I don't know, that's just me. I just want them to know that women can do everything men can do, and I enjoy it. So Amy, what do you think? Because it is a struggle, I know, for myself as well, to have, especially with COVID, with the Zoom school, the kids running around in the background and meeting their needs, and all that with working.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I certainly appreciate the concern that you just shared, Marianne. Is that what part of what I talk about and I coach and mentor on is about, when we talk about life balance, it's also about establishing structure and self-discipline and putting boundaries around ourselves. And boundaries, if you think of a boundary, it's if you have a house, you have a fence to keep the, I don't know, people out of your yard, or maybe the neighbor's dogs from coming in your yard, or whatever it might be. But one thing that I think that we have a tendency to forget about in our lives as women is we forget about boundaries. So we overcommit, we start saying too many yeses, not enough nos. And one of the things that I do just practices is, everything simple, from having a what are the 6 most important things I'm going to get done today list. I actually, maybe I'm old school, but I still have I have a paper planner. I use my Outlook, but I still block out what are my priorities today, and then what times am I working, from what time to what time, and what meetings do I have. And then, when it's 5 o'clock, I'm probably the anomaly here. I don't have kids, but I have cats. I'm cat mom. But, I have 2 businesses, like everybody else. I volunteer. I'm in National Speakers Association, Toastmasters. I mean, I got a lot on my plate, like everybody here. We all fill the hourglass one way or another. And what I find is that one of my favorite sayings is, when I say no, what am I saying yes to? And I've really become a lot more self-disciplined about not overcommitting, and I've become more self-disciplined of having time in my schedule, which is just unplanned, unscheduled downtime. And the times in my life when I'm frantic and crazy and moody, it's because I've got way too much on my plate and I've committed to way too much. I think those little simple practices of setting boundaries around ourselves and our time is something that has helped me stay in sync and stay, mentally and emotionally in tune with myself.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I love how you said that, the overcommitting. I say yes to everything. But yes, you're right. A lot of times I do have to stop and think now, because there isn't as much time with the 3 kids, and now we've adopted a COVID dog, and I do have 2 cats and the husband. Everybody, what am I, if I say yes, what am I saying no to?
Right.
Like, that's kind of, yeah, I've started to think about that as well. We do have another chat question, unless anybody else want to weigh in on that. Okay. So where do men need help? What are some specific examples you can share about actions or statements men make in the workplace that they see as neutral but are really not? Jessica, do you have any? You're laughing.
Well, I am the only woman stateside on my team, and we have 200 employees in Cebu, Philippines, where our developers are. But here stateside, there's 6 of us, and I'm the only female. And so, sometimes it just naturally, like where it's been done this way for decades, women take the notes of the meeting. And I always just challenge that in saying that I'm not the best person here to take notes. So why do you think I should? And if I am the best person, like let's say there's only 2 of us in that meeting and it's quite clear that I'm the best person, then I will do it because I'm the best person to do it. And so, that just kind of goes back to what I think the overall, thought process for me and how I do work is that I hone in on my best qualities, on my best characteristics. What do I excel at? And that is what I, just jump into the deep end. And that's what I am all about. And I let go of the stuff that I'm not good at. I probably should, if there was more time in that hourglass, read some books on, thinking before I speak and little things like that I'm not very good at. But I'm really good at so many things. And so that's what I focus on. And it has nothing to do with being a woman or a man. It's just, I know what I'm good at and I'm going to stay in that box.
Yeah, so
great-
Jessica, I think that you raised a really, really interesting point there. The fact is, one of the areas I think that that men need help is, just having an accountability partner or some kind of system or mechanism by which they can view things through a different lens. And so you talked about note taking, and I was always the one tasked with taking notes at meetings. I was also the only woman manager. And the thing is, if you ask me to take notes in a meeting, that's pulling my focus from the meeting, right? If I have to take notes, I'm not as invested and engaged in the conversation that's happening. I'm not thinking through solutions. And so that's really, it kind of takes me out of the equation. Women take on so many caretaking roles in the workplace. I was always the one to clean the kitchen, and nobody asked me to, but it just needed to be done. And it would never have gotten done. The state of it when I started working there, I never wanted to experience again. But nobody made me do it. The person who gets the birthday card and the birthday cake and passes it around the office. We take on these caretaking roles. If you think about it, that person in your office more often than not was a woman. And so just being able to see that, because I don't think that I don't think that men have any malice when they're, putting these kind of either intrinsic or intrinsic expectations on you. But, just be mindful. If you want to be an advocate and an activator for women, see our contributions and see what you can do to alleviate the burden. I don't know. I think that if more people were just a little bit more mindful and thoughtful about inclusion, I think there would be an immediate and large impact.
Great. That was so good. I'd say the other thing that we could really work on is, again, back to language, removing a few things out of their brains. I actually left a position because of this experience immediately, which is very dramatic for me. I'm not that type of person usually, but I worked for an advertising agency, and the male CEO decided that he wanted to kind of lead the meeting. We had a big opportunity that I had found. It was massive. And I'd only been there for 3 months. And I think it really, really concerned him that I was going to lead the presentation of what our firm's capabilities were. And now this maybe does have malice, but I'm into the story now and it's a good one. So rather than kind of have a conversation with me and ask about how we could partner together on the presentation, he called the client and shared that I had mommy issues and wasn't going to be able to make it. So mommy issues is just something I'd like to just take it out. So unfortunately, what the CEO of that firm did not anticipate is that I had already built a really great know, like, and trust factor with this potential client, AKA why we got the meeting. So his first call after he hung up was to me, Sarah, what's wrong with your kiddos? And I'm like, what do you mean? What's wrong with, I don't know. I'm going to see you in 90 minutes. I'm driving. What are you talking about? So that mommy issues term, just in general, it doesn't work. And I hear it a lot. because I think they feel like it easily just encompasses there's stuff she has to do with the kids. But A, that was a bold-faced lie, and B, parenting or my husband shares that responsibility, so it could just as well be his turn, right, to take care of some of that stuff. So there's just quite a few phrases like that that I think we just need to suck out of the brains real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop in again because I just wanted to add something. You're talking about parenting, and I don't have kids, but I deeply respect the experience and what mothers bring to the table. But I've seen so many situations, like particularly over the course of the past year and a half, we've been inviting people into our homes, right? We're on Zooms and I can see people's, sometimes I can see their bedrooms in the background, sometimes I can see, but like we're invited into their personal life. And so I have situations where I definitely see, like, I'll see Zooms where like there are kids running around in the background, and I personally love that. But think about it, there was a time very recently where that would have been unprofessional. And so I think that one of the greatest sea changes that we're seeing or at least I'm hoping that we're starting to lead with empathy and understand that, like, I'm invited into your home. This is a part of your experience, and the work and the life, they don't lift out. They don't, you are always a mother, and you are always a business person, and your identities don't just leave you when you walk into another door. And so I think that it's hugely important and hugely impactful that we acknowledge that, that women have unique experiences, and we need to figure out ways to make it easier, not harder. Let's talk about supportive family leave policies. Let's talk about, breastfeeding policies. Let's like, if we want to be truly inclusive, we have to put more time, money, resources, thought, behind all of it. But yeah, it's an interesting question, and Sarah, thank you for opening up the discussion.
This is great. Okay, we've got more people are saying excellent point. We've got all this great feedback. We also have another question. I think men are really curious about your perspective for understanding what is the ballpark percentage of men who behave in an unintentionally sexist manner in the workplace. And then what percentages are decidedly overly sexist, just working to gain framework around the scope of the problem. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? What percentage
that's a
gets
great
it?
question.
What percentage doesn't get it? Oh gosh, Gretchen's saying 100%.
No way. I'm thinking 50-50. I mean, I was thinking about it this morning that, in the work I do, it's very often, unfortunately, and it is what it is, that there's more women that are frontline sellers, and then there's more men that are in management positions. And I think about the year when I was a frontline seller in medical sales, there was a year that the top 10 were all women out of 50 people in the sales force. And I was like, yes, I love that picture I have. And I think the thing is, it's really disheartening when I hear stories. I recently heard a colleague leave a medical company because she said that she wasn't being treated very well, and she brought it to HR, and they really didn't do a whole lot about it. But I think the biggest thing that I think my takeaway or my is to continue to develop my self-confidence, my self-esteem, so that A, I have the confidence to confront the situation, and B, that I choose to exit an organization or a place if I'm not feeling valued, or if I feel like the situation is not getting better. To me, that would be the things that I've consistently trained and thought of. Not always easy, but I always say, I enter the world alone, I leave the world alone. At the end of the day, my happiness is my barometer. And if I'm not happy and the situation's not going to change, sometimes we just got to move on.
I think that's, I'm glad that's your experience, Amy. That it's much worse for me. And I think that's because, especially, I love that the men are asking questions about that unintentional sexism, because it's really easy to spot the intentional, right? And we get hit with it all the time. It's very easy to see that. But there are a lot of ways that I believe, because I'm a Grace girl, that it's maybe not as intentional. So for example, a lot of conversation starters that I find for like client lunches, client dinners, client happy hours, right? You got to start somewhere, and sometimes that can be difficult for men. They're like, wow, what do I say to this girl? Has what I found, and I should start documenting this, is like jokes about being either a woman in leadership or a woman in power, or jokes about women's driving abilities or women's ability to read directions or read a map. There's a lot of jokes, I feel like, that are just in people's repertoire. If for some reason I'm driving around a male colleague and I hit a curb, it does happen. Then absolutely is because I am a female rather than I'm a human that made a quick mistake and quickly corrected it. So I would say it's way more like 70, 30, unfortunately, would be my perspective. If we're talking unintentional sexism, it's a lot.
I just want to add, if I hit a curb, it's only because I have 1,000 things going on. And I hate to say it, but like my husband does not juggle as much as I do. So like you have to be like the home manager. I mean, maybe it's different relationships, but I just have my mind cluttered all the time. That's why I'm like not paying attention, hitting a curb. Just want to throw that out there. Let's go to, go ahead, Jess.
I think that it's gotten better, actually. Maybe it's just because I'm now really more focused on Kansas City's startup ecosystem, but like, I started out in Chicago, and it was really hard for me in about 2010, so 10 years ago. It was really hard for me because I just felt like I was not an equal to my male equals. And I felt that way because I was kind of put in that position. I felt that way because that was what I was hearing. That's what I was feeling. That was the vibe. And I almost accepted it for it is what it is. But I still challenged them, and I would just plant seeds slowly and water them slowly. And I became so good at planting and watering that now I scatter and feverishly water and I'm just a little bit more intentional and communicative on how I'm feeling. And I don't come from a place of anger, because I don't let it fester. So if I see unintentional or intentional things, happening here in my life in Kansas City, I talk about it, and I kind of rephrase it so that it's not man bashing. It's more of a question. And so, I'm sure that there's some kind of, theory or on doing some kind of, way to do it, but I always pose questions. So do you realize that what you just said is kind of sexist? Rather than that was totally sexist, sure, like I'll just say, do you see how that could be taken as offensive? And so that it's not a power. I'm not coming from a place of questioning their authority, even though I am. I'm putting the ball back into their court. And when I do it that way, they're a lot more responsive. And I do it for women too. And I just, say, just to pose questions, just to plant seeds. And I see that it's maybe it helps them, maybe it doesn't, but it helps me. And it makes me not think about it all day long or for a week at a time, or not want to continue to do the know, like, trust with them, because I have been true to myself. So I just want to encourage everyone listening to go right back into that communicative. If it doesn't feel right, always go with your gut. And the more you practice bringing it up in a question manner so that you don't look assertive and crazy, however, the more you practice it, the better you'll get at it.
Thank you, Jessica. Ryan, or I'm sorry, we have the follow-up to this question. To what degree is it getting better?
I think that it's 60-40 for me. Like, I would say that 10 years ago, I was 100% in a male-dominated, I got inappropriate comments at every happy hour. It was awkward and uncomfortable, and I almost didn't even feel like going to events because I knew who would say something and I would avoid them. And there wasn't, I used to be like strength in numbers where I would want to go with my female colleagues, but they just stopped. They were just like, I don't want to. And I was like, well, I have to, like, please come with me. And they just couldn't anymore. And it's totally different now for me, though. I don't know if it's just different because of society is different or if I'm different. And I think that maybe it's just both. And, I can't control society, but I can control me. And so that's what I focus on every day, is doing my very best that I can do every day.
Thank you, Jessica. We have one more question, and then I'm going to ask you guys all for closing thoughts as well. We have about 10 minutes, which I feel like we should have a sequel to this. Like, we could go on for a long, this is a great topic. So let's see here. Here is the next question. What do you think is the biggest difference between men and women in sales?
I'll start out by saying, I think women, just biologically, however you want to call it, I think we have just a natural sense of empathy and caring and wanting to serve and support other people. And I personally believe that sales, to me, is almost the same. It's synonymous with customer service. I believe sales is 95% customer service in my experience. So I think that that's a huge attribute women bring to the table. I think that men definitely excel in the areas of being deliberate and of being assertive and of maybe emotional intelligence at times. But on the same token, I think the thing that's so exciting is that if you marry these two traits together, I think that we all bring something to the table regardless of our gender. And what I'm saying is, I'm listening to it, maybe I'm even making a stereotype right now by what I'm saying, but from having been a sales trainer for hundreds of sales professionals in a corporation, I think some of the things that I've seen is that when I'm riding out in the field, I do see different behaviors on both sides that make each of the sexes better than the other at certain things, and that's just the way it is. But we can all learn from each other, is I think how I'd summarize that.
I think it's imposter syndrome, which is a lot like confidence. But, I don't know if I've ever had a conversation with a man about imposter syndrome. Have you guys? But I have had hundreds of conversations with women about imposter syndrome. And so that tells me that, the ladies in my network, that they are going to be encouraged to read a book about imposter syndrome, because we are excel, we have a heightened challenge for imposter syndrome. And I think that it goes back into confidence, and that women for a long time were told that confidence equals aggressiveness, or all the nasty words is confident, and that's just not the case. You don't call a man aggressive when he's confident. Confidence in a man is sexy. Why is confidence in a woman not sexy? And so that's just my opinion on the differences, is imposter syndrome and confidence, and to take control back by communicating that and learning about that and having mentors that can help share with you what they did when they experienced that. Empower yourself to own your strengths and own your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. I can find the unmute button. Excellent points. And I just have to add, when you see an incredibly successful woman in sales, I think it's important to recognize the journey she's been on. No matter what she's selling or no matter where she's from, she worked really effing hard to be able to get to that point. And sometimes our male colleagues don't have to quite work as hard as we do to be able to build the reputations that we do. So I think that is an absolute distinct difference. If you see a phenomenal woman crushing it in sales, you know you can count on her because she has fought tooth and nail to get where she is in a way that's distinctly different than her male counterpart. Sorry, but it's true.
It is true.
Is that a sorry, not sorry situation?
Like, why did I apologize? It's freaking true.
I love that, Sarah. It is true. Okay, so let's do all of our closing thoughts here. Lauren, we can start with you. Just some closing thoughts you want to leave the audience with or something you want to emphasize from today.
So much pressure to go first. So thank you for that. So, I mean, I don't know, like, I don't think it's particularly difficult. I think it can, this whole equity in the workplace, supporting women, it's not hard, it's really not rocket science. Hire women, listen to women, support women, champion women, see our struggles. Like, so it's not hard to see where the benefit lies and what you need to do. It's difficult to actually do it. And so, I mean, I that's just what I challenge everybody to do, just be really intentional around trying to understand someone else's experience, particularly when they don't look, think, and act like you. I want people to see, to Sarah's earlier point, like, yeah, I worked really damn hard, and some of it was pretty gendered. Some of it was because I'm a woman. And am I bitter about it? No. Am I angry about it? Mostly no. But just being seen and having that experience seen and having it understood is extraordinarily powerful. And I mean, that it's why communities like, I have a friend coming to visit. I'm so sorry. I'll just let him do it. There you go. Anyway, so yeah, but just trying to understand someone else's experience, whether that be a woman who works next to you, someone who is, a person of color or someone from the LGBTQIA community, like whatever it is, like when you look at them, try to see their experience and try to put yourself in their shoes. Hey, drop mic, stepping off the soapbox.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Sarah?
Yeah, I was debating all hour if I was going to bring this up, and I decided that I would. I think for men, I'd like for you to be more aware. As we were starting to build this panel, and even the kind of tipping point which brought this panel together was actually a clubhouse room where I was articulating the difficulties that I had found being a woman in sales. And the male that was running the room said, had a comment that the reason women get negative sexual advances at sales meetings is because they dress like prostitutes. So straight up, and that's kind of what, and then some people heard it that kind of put this together, and that's kind of why we're here today. But I think it's important to understand that women who are in sales and marketing are experiencing unwanted sexual advances at a very disconcerting rate to me. It happens to me at least once a year, even now in 2021, whatever year we're in. And what I found when I started sharing those stories are men are shocked. Because yes, men that are allies and supportive absolutely are not doing that. But there are still a lot of men that think it's okay. And I think as parting thoughts, please be more aware of that, men. I'm glad you don't experience it, but we need you to be more aware, watching out, and modeling that good behavior so that we can put an end to the absolute ridiculous notion that I need to be concerned about that when I'm working. There's my mic drop.
I love this. Okay, Jessica.
I think I might have already have said my overall thing, but I'm going to say it again, which is owning your strength. So whether you're an employer and you're wondering how do I get more out of my female salespeople, or how do I not be sexist, whatever that is, I've never been happier in my role right now at Full Scale, and that is because I'm not put into a box of salesperson, and this is what you are going to do, and this is your process, and this is how you will succeed, and these are the KPIs that you must hit. Instead, I just go and do my work, and I prove what I'm good at, and then the box can be built around me into this is my role and this is what you're good at, and that's probably, I'm just really blessed with my boss and my CEO and my counterparts here, is that I'm not expected to be someone I'm not. And I feel like that is how I have not been happy in my former employee or CEO positions, is that I was expected to be something that I'm not. And that goes on to me. I need to know who I am. I need to own my strengths, and I need to not focus on what I'm bad at all the time, because that hurts my self-esteem, and I'm probably not ever going to be good at it, because that's not my strength. So I really just want to give you guys the encouragement to know your strengths, exploit those. And if your boss or your people are telling you this is what you need to do, then just go prove your value in another way, or do it a different system. But go, numbers don't lie, the data doesn't lie. And so you don't get hung up on the steps to get there. Just go and kill it.
Thank you, Jessica. Amy?
Yeah, thank you. I agree so much with what everybody said, and especially Jessica, what you just said. I always say that there's three steps to change, and if we talk about diversity and inclusion, and it's awareness, action, and it's accountability. So first of all, being aware if I'm not comfortable with something that's said or the way I'm being treated. Second thing is action. Am I going to communicate that to somebody else? And be accountable means how am I going to be the best version of myself, so that if those things do happen, I'm comfortable talking to somebody about it. But I do love what was just said about by Jessica, about just be the change, be the example, be the model, be the one that stands out, makes a difference. And I think if we can do that and embrace our unique differences, the world and the workplace between men and women will be even that much more better. Mic drop.
I love this. You ladies are great. I could just talk to you forever. Okay, so I guess we are going to close, even though I don't want to. We are at time today. We truly hope you've all found value on our panel. We look forward to your feedback. Thank you to all the sponsors, Enterprise Banks, Schmersahl Treloar, Spoke Marketing, and Carmody McDonald, St. Louis Makes. And you can find all of our speakers today on LinkedIn. They will be happy to connect with you, and it's been an honor to be your moderator. Please check out the screen for our contact info. And we are on summer schedule now with the earning curve. So we won't be back here until June 22nd, and we will be discussing raw materials pricing for management and manufacturing. So have a great day, have a great few weeks off, and I will see you all next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.